Not long ago I read a book about schema therapy and an interesting data caught my attention. Based on Harvard's research, only 33% of people can reach a higher stage of adulthood, or as it is called, a real adulthood. But before we move forward, I think it's worth to clarify what is a real adulthood. Becoming an adult is not only about reaching the age of 18 or 21 or be eligible to get a driving license and find a well-paying workplace. Actually, none of these are part of reaching a higher stage of adulthood, because in this perspective we are talking about something what a person is capable to do or act in different kind of situations as an adult. Now let's get into the details step by step, and by the end of this video hopefully you will be able to decide if you are already on the right path to become a real adult, or you should take some actions to be aligned with this goal. You can recognize and acknowledge your emotions. The first step to become a real adult is to recognize and understand how you feel, and of course be able to take actions to avoid undesirable consequences. Now let's see a few examples regarding well-known emotions. Anger is a very common emotion, and most of the time it just happens with us. Something or someone triggers you, and after that the overwhelming rage sweeps through everything. But let's face the truth, how many times anger helped us out in these kind of situations? Mostly it is a destructive emotion, and in this state of mind we can say or do things what we might regret sooner or later. Another perfect example is jealousy. Anytime when we become jealous, it definitely won't help us to solve the situations we are in, but rather it worsens everything. Same as anger, it can be triggered nearly by anyone or anything. These emotions can be overwhelming, and the actions and reactions given in response to them are mostly based on our childhood memories. For example, anytime we didn't get what we wanted when we were children, we became angry as we felt that this is the only way to finally get the attention we deserve. Same goes for jealousy. It is not easy to understand as a kid why one of our friends can get the coolest toy, meanwhile we get nothing. In this case, comparison can trigger jealousy, and it goes further. Jealousy will trigger anger. And here we go again. The kid is crying for a new toy because they fear that this is the only way to get the right attention and the possibility to get the new toy. The problem is when these kind of behaviors worked as a child, and afterwards we learn that anytime something is not going the way as we planned, we are entitled to become angry and frustrated. Time passes and we grow up, but we still carry these schemas into our adulthood, but all the circumstances are changed, so they won't be effective anymore, but rather harmful. And this is the point where a real adult can step into the picture. A person who truly reached the adulthood is able to recognize and understand their emotions, decide if they are right or wrong, and they are fully in control of their responses to them. They can clearly visualize the different kind of responses and their consequences. Furthermore, they are fully aware if they can talk about their emotions in the given situations or not. All in all, developing the right level of intelligence, which is the ability to be able to recognize and understand your emotions and others' emotions too, is definitely a necessary part of becoming a real adult. In a real adult's life, it plays an important part, especially in different kinds of conflicts. You can handle your problems. A person who reached a higher level stage of adulthood is able to understand and solve all of their problems effectively. As I already discussed in one of my previous videos, how to solve all of your problems, a real adult understands that not the actual problem is the real problem, but rather their perception. That means a person who is acting like a real adult won't be overwhelmed in these kind of tough situations. Shortly, they are able to see the problems rationally without any further emotion. They acknowledge the difficulty of the situations, but they don't want to overstate their weight with different kind of negative emotions like anger, jealousy, fear, and so on. Furthermore, they don't waste their time and energy running unnecessary scenarios why all these things happened with them or how they ended up there, driven by the explained emotions. Instead, a real adult will only focus on constructive solutions and do everything what they can to deal with the different kind of difficulties. To sum up this part, a person who reached the higher stage of adulthood is able to understand that sometimes things won't work out as they planned. But that doesn't mean that they have to label them with their own negative emotions and stuck in the situation. They can think rationally, and because of that they are able to come up with solutions which can solve their problems way quicker and also prepare them for the next challenge. You can defend yourself without hurting others. Avoidance, complaining, overcompensation, all of these behaviors can be part of an adult's life, and they are called coping modes. These kind of coping modes help us to deal with situations where we sense that we have to protect ourselves. Certainly we are not talking about physical protection, but rather any time when we notice that somebody treats us unfairly, maybe criticizes us or hurts our feelings. And here comes the huge difference between a real adult or an adult who is still acting like a child. A person who reached the higher stage of adulthood always knows how to protect themselves without, and this is very important, hurting themselves or others. Now let's see a few examples for coping modes which shouldn't be part of a real adult's reactions. Some people simply can't defend themselves, and anytime when they feel that they are in such a situation, they just walk away. They try to avoid the drama, and because of that they build a wall around themselves which can help them to protect their personality. Another coping mode is when people try to protect themselves with different kind of self-soothing or self-stimulating activities. Excessive training, drinking too much alcohol, or using different kind of substances and seeking for pleasure all the time. All of these behaviors can protect the individual to face their problems and how they feel. Lastly, there are coping modes which are not only harmful for ourselves but also for others. Complaining all the time, becoming a control freak, or manipulating or even humiliating others. All of these kind of behaviors can be part of a person's self-protection. But what's wrong with the explained coping modes? First of all, a person who always tries to avoid their self-protection will result in a situation where they can easily lose their personality and also their connection with the present. Regarding the overcompensation, these are dangerous behaviors where the individual pushes off others around them because of their reactions. In conclusion, a real adult is always able to protect themselves without hurting themselves or others, anytime when they feel that somebody is hurting them or treating them unfairly. You are able to take responsibility and to commit. The last thing that I consider as an important part of becoming a real adult is to be able to take responsibility and also commit yourself. It means that no matter what happens, they are fully aware of their actions. They don't want to blame others if something is off the track, and they definitely don't want to take all the credits anytime when something worked out. They don't point at something or someone else if they get into a rough situation. And same goes for committing. A person who reached the higher stage of adulthood is able to commit themselves to goals, people, or belief. And of course they do everything what they can to make sure that they reach their goals. They stay on track and don't let themselves blinded by external attractive factors. They are focusing on their relationships and they pay attention to the people as they committed themselves to them. So that was all for today, and by the end of this video I can say that reaching a higher stage of adulthood definitely takes a lot of effort. It won't happen without the right level of commitment, and you always have to seek for the opportunities for continuous improvement. So shortly, what can you do if you would like to reach this stage? First of all, you can get advices from the people who are interested in this topic like me. Secondly, you can start to educate yourself and also read widely. Read books about emotional intelligence, schema therapy, and so on. And lastly, be comfortable with the discomfort. Don't try to suppress your feelings all the time, but rather try to acknowledge them and also understand why you feel the way you do.